They butchered our families, destroyed our worlds, and left mankind for dead, or so they believed. Behind the veil of extinction, a secret network of cryo chambers lay dormant beneath Earth's scorched surface, cradling the last hope for humanity within their frigid embrace. As the alien alliance celebrated their victory, the cryopods silently stirred to life, preserving humanity's finest, soldiers, scientists, diplomats, and the innocent. These chambers held the key to our survival. Unbeknownst to our would-be exterminators, we had planned for this dark day. 4 beacons of hope emerged from the icy depths: Jake King, a battle-hardened warrior; Dr. Lena Novak, a brilliant mind who unraveled the cryo network's enigmas; Nolan Shaw, a silver-tongued negotiator; and Mara, a spirited youth leading a band of children nurtured by AI guardians. United by the unyielding force of human resilience, they embarked on a perilous mission to navigate a treacherous galaxy, forge alliances, and unearth the truth behind the war that nearly doomed our kind. But the Ulian commander Tyro, fueled by an insatiable hatred for humanity, sought to snuff out our flickering light once more. As he hunted the remnants of our species, Jake, Lena, Nolan, and Mara raced against time to gather the scattered survivors and expose a sinister conspiracy that threatened not only the fate of humanity, but the very balance of the cosmos. In a universe where we were but ghosts of a forgotten past, the resurgence of humanity would shake the stars. The cryo chambers had spoken, and we would not go quietly into the night. In the depths of a hidden quarry laboratory, Zara stood before the human survivors, her eyes reflecting a mix of perseverance and regret. "I know you have no reason to trust me," she said, her voice steady. "But I assure you, my only goal is to help you survive and expose the truth." Jake exchanged a wary glance with Nolan, his hand instinctively resting on the hilt of his weapon. Lena stepped forward, her gaze locked on Zara. "Why should we believe you? Your kind tried to wipe us out." Zara met Lena's stare unflinchingly. "Because I have seen the corruption that lies at the heart of the Alliance. The Nexus has manipulated us all, and I refuse to be a pawn in their game any longer." As Zara revealed the existence of the rebel faction and the enigmatic leader Talon, Mara's eyes widened with a glimmer of hope. "If there are others who oppose the Nexus, perhaps we have a chance after all." Nolan leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "And what of these Lormian traitors? Can they be trusted?" Zara nodded. "The Lormians are known for their neutrality. They care little for the politics of the galaxy, but they value profitable alliances. Securing their support could provide us with valuable resources and information." As the humans grappled with the weight of Zara's revelations, Commander Tyro's forces scoured the galaxy for any trace of the cryo chambers. Krax, his second-in-command, led a team of elite soldiers to a remote asteroid field where an energy signature had been detected. Krax surveyed the desolate landscape, his eyes narrowing as he spotted the faint glow of a cryo chamber hidden beneath the rubble. He signaled to his team, and they quickly surrounded the chamber, weapons drawn. Inside the cryo chamber, a dozen humans lay in frozen slumber, oblivious to the danger that lurked outside. Krax hesitated for a moment, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. The sight of the helpless humans stirred something within him, a distant memory of a time when he had questioned the morality of their mission. But the moment passed, and Krax steeled himself. He had his orders, and he would not fail his commander. With a curt nod to his team, they began the process of rigging the chamber with explosives. As the humans and their newfound allies raced against time to uncover the secrets of the Nexus, Commander Tyro's paranoia grew. He paced the bridge of his ship, his eyes darting from one crew member to another, searching for any sign of disloyalty. "I want every cryo chamber found and destroyed," he snarled, his voice echoing through the silent room. "And if anyone dares to question my orders, they will face the consequences." Krax watched his commander with growing unease. He had always been loyal to Tyro, but the cracks in his purpose were beginning to show. As he witnessed the depths of Tyro's cruelty and the true nature of the Nexus, he found himself questioning everything he had ever believed in. In a secret meeting with Zara and the human survivors, Krax made a decision that would change the course of the galaxy. I have evidence that could expose the Nexus and their true intentions, he said, his voice low and urgent. But we must act quickly. Tyro grows more unstable by the day, and the Nexus will stop at nothing to maintain their grip on power. Jake, Lena, Nolan, and Mara exchanged determined looks. They knew the path ahead would be fraught with danger, but they also knew that the fate of humanity and the galaxy hung in the balance. As they prepared to infiltrate the heavily guarded Nexus facility, the human survivors and their allies knew that they were no longer just fighting for their own survival. They were fighting for the future of all sentient beings, for the right to live free from the tyranny of the Nexus. And in that moment, the flickering light of humanity burned brighter than ever before, a beacon of hope in a galaxy consumed by darkness. The team's footsteps echoed through the sterile corridors of the Nexus facility as they approached the main security checkpoint. Jake's muscles tensed, ready for action, while Lena's eyes darted from screen to screen, absorbing every detail of their surroundings. Suddenly, a familiar voice crackled through their comms. Security patrol approaching from the east wing. Take cover in the maintenance shaft to your right. Nolan's eyebrows shot up. Krax, is that you? Yes, came the terse reply. I've defected. Now move. Without hesitation, Jake ushered the group into the narrow shaft. They held their breath as heavy footsteps passed by, then faded into the distance. Krax's voice returned softer now. I'll guide you through the facility. There's a hidden laboratory 2 levels down. That's where you'll find what you're looking for. As they descended, Lena and Mara branched off, following Krax's directions to the lab. The acrid smell of chemicals filled their nostrils as they entered, causing Mara to wrinkle her nose. Look, Lena whispered, pointing to a workstation. Those files. They're Dr. Riker's research. Mara's fingers flew across the keyboard, decrypting file after file. Her eyes widened as the truth unfolded before them. The Nexus. They orchestrated everything. The war, the conflicts between alien races. It was all them. A video message flickered to life on the screen. Dr. Riker's haggard face appeared, his voice urgent. If you're seeing this, our worst fears have come to pass. The Nexus plans to use the Crucible, an ancient weapon capable of sterilizing the entire galaxy. You must stop them at all costs. Meanwhile, Jake and Nolan had stumbled upon a heavily guarded cell block. The sound of their approach caused a stir among the prisoners. Who's there? A melodic voice called out. Are you with the Nexus? Jake stepped forward, weapon raised. We're here to stop them. Who are you? A slender, purple-skinned alien emerged from the shadows. I am Zephyr, a quarry scientist. And this, he gestured to a stocky, reptilian creature, is Rask, a Lormian engineer. We were forced to work on the Crucible project. Nolan's eyes narrowed. The Crucible? We just learned about that. Can you help us destroy it? Zephyr nodded solemnly. We know its weaknesses. Free us, and we'll aid your cause. As alarms blared throughout the facility, the newly formed alliance raced against time. Jake and Krax pursued the Crucible's control device, while Lena and Zephyr worked to disable its power source. Nolan and Rask searched for the elusive Novarium, essential to the weapon's function. Mara's voice crackled over the comms. I've found something. The Cryo network's energy signature. It might be able to disrupt the Nexus's control over the Crucible. Before they could respond, a chilling voice echoed through the facility. Intruders detected. All units eliminate the human vermin and their sympathizers. Commander Tyro had arrived, and the final battle for the fate of the galactic realm had begun. The echoes of battle faded as Jake surveyed the aftermath of their assault on the Nexus facility. Sparks flew from damaged consoles, and the acrid smell of burnt circuitry filled the air. Lena rushed to his side, her face streaked with grime and sweat. We did it, she breathed, her eyes wide with disbelief. The Crucible is disabled. Jake nodded grimly. But this is not nearly finished. The Nexus still has its tentacles spread across the galaxy. A sudden crackle of static interrupted their moment of respite. A gruff voice echoed through their comms. This is Commander Zoran of the Carthian fleet. I have a proposition for you, humans. Nolan raised an eyebrow. Carthian? I thought their planet was... Destroyed, Zoran finished. By the very organization you just struck a blow against. We have a common enemy. I suggest we meet to discuss an alliance. Hours later, aboard Zoran's flagship, the group gathered around a holographic display of the galaxy. The Carthian commander's scarred face was illuminated by the blue glow of the map as he outlined his plan. Our intel suggests a high-ranking Nexus operative named Varus holds critical information, Zoran explained. Capture him, and we can root out the rest of their leadership. Jake leaned forward, studying the proposed infiltration route. My team can handle the extraction, but we'll need support. Zoran nodded. You'll have it. Meanwhile, we'll need to prepare for the inevitable counterattack. As the others discussed strategy, Lena pulled Zephyr aside. We need to develop countermeasures against their tech. Can you help? The Corey scientist's antenna twitched with excitement. Absolutely. I have some ideas that might give us an edge. While preparations for the assault on Varus's stronghold were underway, Nolan found himself in a series of tense negotiations. He sat across from a stern-faced Lormian diplomat, the silence between them thick with unspoken tension. Your request for safe passage is problematic, the Lormian said finally. The Nexus has long arms. Nolan leaned forward, his voice low and measured. And yet those arms are weakening. Surely you can see which way the tide is turning. As Nolan worked to secure allies, Jake's team prepared for their mission. They gathered in a dimly lit hangar, checking weapons and equipment. Zara approached, her eyes gleaming with a mix of tenacity and mischief. We've devised a plan to get you inside, she said, gesturing to Talon, who stood nearby. It's risky, but it might just work. The infiltration of Varus's stronghold was a blur of silent movements and precise coordination. Jake's team moved like shadows through the facility, guided by Zara and Talon's rebel operatives. As they neared their target, the silence was shattered by an alarm. We've been made, Jake shouted, ducking behind cover as energy bolts sizzled past. The ensuing firefight was fierce but brief. Jake's team, hardened by their recent battles, quickly overwhelmed Varus's guards. They found the Nexus operative cowering in a hidden chamber, his eyes wide with fear. You don't understand what you're doing, Varus hissed as Jake hauled him to his feet. The Nexus is all that stands between order and chaos. Jake's grip tightened. Save it for the interrogation. As they escaped with their prisoner, a familiar face appeared on the display of their transport. Tyro, his eyes burning with hatred, sneered at them. You think you've won? He snarled. This is just the beginning. I will hunt you to the ends of the galaxy if I must. The transmission cut out, leaving the team in uneasy silence. They had captured Varus, but at what cost? And what new dangers would Tyro's escape bring? As their ship streaked through space, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was only just beginning. The Nexus had been dealt a blow, but it was far from defeated. And now, with Tyro on the loose and the future of the cosmos hanging in the balance, Jake knew that every decision, every alliance, and every sacrifice would shape the future of humanity and countless other species across the stars. The capture of Varus had been a turning point, but Jake knew it was merely the first step in a much larger operation. As their ship docked with Commander Zoran's flagship, a sense of anticipation filled the air. In the war room, holographic displays flickered to life, revealing the fruits of Varus's interrogation. A moon, shrouded in perpetual darkness, rotated slowly before them. This is it, Zoran announced, his voice grave. The Nexus headquarters. Lena leaned forward, her eyes scanning the data. Their defenses are unlike anything we've seen. An AI system, far more advanced than we anticipated. Jake's face hardened. Then we'll just have to be smarter. Over the next few days, the Alliance prepared for their most daring assault yet. Lena and Zephyr worked tirelessly, their fingers flying over keyboards as they developed countermeasures against the Nexus AI. We're modifying these probes with adaptive algorithms, Zephyr explained, holding up a sleek metallic device. They'll disrupt the AI's neural networks, creating blind spots in their defenses. Meanwhile, Nolan found himself in a dimly lit chamber, face to face with a being unlike any he'd encountered before. The roboticist's body was a seamless blend of organic and mechanical parts, its eyes glowing with an eerie intelligence. Your cause intrigues us, the being said, its voice a melodic hum. We will provide the hardware you require, but at a price. Nolan nodded, knowing the weight of his next words. Name it. In a separate section of the ship, Mara sat surrounded by the children, their young faces illuminated by the glow of screens. All right, team, she said, her voice filled with pride. Let's put those synthetic minds to work. We need to run every possible simulation of the AI's responses. The day of the assault arrived. Jake stood on the bridge of Zoran's cloaked carrier, watching as Lormian blockade runners prepared to launch their infiltration pods. Zara, what's the status on their defensive perimeter? Jake asked, his voice tense. The alien resistance fighter's image flickered on the screen. Heavy security jamming, but we've identified potential weak points. It's now or never, Jake. Jake nodded, turning to address the strike force. You all know the stakes. We breach their defenses, we end this war. For humanity, for our allies, for every species that suffered under the Nexus. Let's move out. The infiltration pods streaked towards the moon's surface, weaving through a hail of defensive fire. As they neared their entry points, Lena's voice crackled over the comms. Deploying disruptive probes. Now. For a moment, nothing happened. Then sections of the moon's defenses went dark, creating a narrow window of opportunity. Go, 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 Jake shouted, leading his team out of the pod and into the subterranean facility. The moment they breached the outer defenses, chaos erupted. Alien commandos clashed with Nexus security drones in a symphony of energy weapons and explosions. Through it all, Jake pushed forward, knowing their window was limited. Suddenly, a new voice echoed through the facility's communication systems. Intruders detected. Activating secondary defensive protocols. Jake's blood ran cold. Lena, what's happening? It's the Overseer, Lena replied, her voice strained. The AI is adapting to our countermeasures. We need a new plan, fast. As Jake's team fought their way deeper into the facility, Lena's voice returned. Jake, listen carefully. We need a physical hardline uplink to disable their core defensive subnet. It's the only way. Jake exchanged a look with Krax, both knowing what needed to be done. We're on it, Jake replied. Where's the central AI node? As Lena relayed the coordinates, the facility shook with a massive explosion. Tyro's forces had arrived, ambushing the human-alien squads in a desperate bid to derail the mission. Nolan, we need backup, Jake shouted into his comm as he and Krax sprinted towards the AI core. On it, Nolan replied, his voice calm despite the chaos. Redirecting drone swarms to your position. My diplomatic team is marking safe paths for extraction. Jake and Krax fought their way through waves of security drones, their movements in perfect sync. As they reached the core, Jake marveled at the massive construct before them, pulsing with energy. I'll plant the explosives, Krax said, already moving. You upload the virus. Jake nodded, connecting Lena's device to the core. As the upload began, warning klaxons blared throughout the facility. Jake, we're out of time, Lena's voice crackled. The core's destabilizing. You need to get out of there. But as Jake turned to leave, he saw their exit was blocked by a wall of debris. Krax met his eyes, a look of fierce dedication on his face. There's only room for one, Krax said, gesturing to a small maintenance duct. The virus needs to reach its target. Go! Before Jake could protest, Krax shoved him into the duct, sealing it behind him. The last thing Jake saw was Krax's silhouette, standing tall as the room filled with blinding light. Moments later, Jake emerged into a corridor where Nolan and the others were waiting. The facility shuddered around them, systems failing as Lena's virus took hold. We did it, Nolan said, his voice a mix of relief and sorrow. But at what cost? As they made their way to the extraction point, Jake's mind raced. They had won a significant victory, but he knew the war was a long way to go. Somewhere in this crumbling base, the true architects of the Nexus waited in cryogenic slumber, unaware that their reign of terror was coming to an end. Jake's grip tightened on his weapon. Whatever came next, he was ready. Jake's grip tightened on his weapon as the extraction team maneuvered through the crumbling Nexus facility. The virus had done its work, leaving destruction in its wake. As they boarded the escape shuttle, Jake's mind raced with the implications of their victory. "We've dealt them a significant blow," Nolan said, his eyes scanning data streams on his wrist device. "But our work is far from finished." Lena's voice crackled over the comm. "The virus did more than just disable their defenses. It unlocked a treasure trove of intel. We've got names, locations, the entire inner circle of Nexus elites." Jake's eyes narrowed. "Then we move now, before they have a chance to regroup." Back aboard Zoran's flagship, the Alliance swiftly formulated a plan. Jake paced the war room, studying holographic projections of their targets. "We'll need to hit them simultaneously," he said. "Cut off any chance of escape or retaliation." Lena stepped forward, holding up a sleek pulsing device. "I've developed specialized inhibitor fields to contain their psychic abilities. We can't underestimate their power." The first strike team, led by Zara, set their sights on Erida IV. Jake watched from the command center as they infiltrated the sanctum of Elder Soviet. "Breach successful," Zara's voice came through, tinged with static. "But Soviet's not going down easy. His cybernetic enhancements are impressive." Jake leaned in, tension evident in his voice. "Remember, Zara, Lena's countermeasures. Use them." A burst of energy flashed across the tactical display. For a moment, silence. Then Zara's triumphant voice. "Target secured. Soviet is down." Before Jake could savor the victory, alarms blared. "Multiple hostiles detected on Dresnia," an operator announced. "It's Overseer Krax and his Ullian loyalist." Commander Zorn's gravelly voice filled the room. "My forces are en route. We'll handle this." Jake shook his head. "No, I'm coming with you. Krax is too dangerous to leave to chance." The assault on Dresnia was chaos incarnate. Jake fought his way through waves of Ullian defenders, their telepathic assaults barely held at bay by Lena's inhibitors. As he neared Krax's inner sanctum, a familiar figure materialized before him. "Tyro!" Jake snarled, raising his weapon. The renegade commander's lips curled into a sneer. "You should have killed me when you had the chance." Their battle was fierce, but short-lived. Tyro's enhanced abilities gave him the upper hand, and Jake found himself disarmed and pinned. Just as Tyro prepared to deliver a killing blow, Krax appeared. "Enough!" the Overseer roared, unleashing a psychic blast that sent Tyro reeling. In the moment of confusion, Jake seized his chance. He activated Lena's inhibitor at full power, the resulting energy wave dropping both Tyro and Krax to their knees. As Jake moved to secure them, Krax met his eyes. "Finish this," the Overseer whispered, before slumping to the ground, lifeless. With Tyro finally in custody, Jake returned to the flagship, his mind heavy with the cost of their victories. But there was no time for reflection. "Jake, we've got something." Mara's excited voice came through the comm. "The children. They found a cryopod signature in deep space. It's Elder Torvin." Lena's eyes widened. "The Nexus Grandmaster. This could be our chance to end this once and for all." The operation to capture Torvin pushed the Alliance to its limits. Lena led the charge, utilizing stolen Nexus cloaking technology to penetrate the heavily defended mobile bastion. But as they neared their target, alarms blared. "He knows we're here," Lena shouted over the comm. "Torvin's initiated some kind of overload sequence. This whole place is going to tear itself apart." Jake watched helplessly from the command center as chaos erupted. "Lena, get out of there!" "Negative," she replied, her voice strained. "I can vent the overload, but I need more time." Suddenly, Nolan's pained cry echoed through the channel. "Torvin's loose! He's... Ah!" Jake's heart raced as he watched Zara engage the Nexus Grandmaster. Torvin's psychic assaults were devastating, pushing the team to their limits. In a moment of desperation, Mara's voice cut through the chaos. "I've got a lock on the Cryo network. Initiating neural disruption, now." The effect was instantaneous. Torvin faltered, his psychic onslaught wavering. Jake saw his opening. "Zara, now!" In a blur of motion, Zara subdued the Nexus Grandmaster. Moments later, Lena's voice rang out. "Overload, vented, we're clear." As the dust settled, Jake surveyed the aftermath. Nolan lay wounded but alive, Torvin was secured, and the immediate threat had passed. But as the Alliance regrouped, a sobering realization set in. There was one more Nexus Grandmaster out there, the progenitor of their twisted ideology, and finding them would prove to be their greatest challenge yet. Jake studied the holographic display of Zoria, its surface a patchwork of domes and ruins. "This is it," he said, his voice tight. "Our final push." As the Alliance ship entered orbit, Lena's voice crackled over the comm. "Drones are picking up some bizarre readings, mutagenic anomalies, exotic energy signatures. This place is a mess." "Suit up," Jake ordered, donning his hazmat gear. "We're going in hot." The team touched down amid the sprawling ruins, Jake leading the way as they established a perimeter. The air shimmered with an otherworldly haze, distorting the crumbling structures around them. "Atmospheric samplers are going crazy," Nolan reported, his eyes widening behind his visor. "There's some kind of nanotech in the air." Before Jake could respond, a high-pitched whine filled their comms. Warning lights flashed across their suit displays. "It's infiltrating our systems," Lena shouted, "initiating emergency quarantine." The team scrambled into a nearby structure, sealing the entrance as decontamination protocols engaged. Jake watched uneasily as a fine mist enveloped their suits, neutralizing the invasive particles. "Mara, what are we dealing with?" he asked, once the immediate danger had passed. Her holographic image flickered to life, her brow furrowed in concentration. "It's like nothing I've ever seen. The nanotech, it's similar to the AI in my cryopod. We might be looking at the same civilization." As Mara and Lena worked to develop countermeasures, Jake turned his attention to Nolan. The diplomat was hunched over an alien console, his fingers flying across its surface. "What have you got?" Jake asked. Nolan looked up, his eyes bright with excitement. "It's a data repository. The Lormian software is decoding it now. Jake, this talks about something called the Arconis GeneCast. They ruled this planet, obsessed with genetic manipulation. But something went wrong." A sudden tremor shook the ground, cutting off Nolan's explanation. Jake's comm crackled to life. "Jake, we've got a problem." Zara's voice came through, strained. "There's some kind of stasis field activating. Our teams are getting immobilized." "Fall back," Jake ordered. But it was too late. An invisible force slammed into him, freezing his muscles in place. Through paralyzed lips, he managed to croak out, "Lena, help." A wave of energy washed over them, and Jake felt a sickening lurch. When his vision cleared, he found himself in a twisted landscape of pulsing circuitry and writhing biomass. "What? Where are we?" he gasped, struggling to orient himself. Lena's voice echoed in his mind, filled with urgency. "It's a virtual reality, Jake. The nanotech, it's integrated us into some kind of simulation." Before Jake could process this, the world around him shifted. He found himself strapped to a cold metal table, surrounded by distorted versions of his allies. Their eyes glowed with an inhuman intelligence as they loomed over him, instruments poised to dissect. A booming voice filled the air, dripping with malice. "Welcome, Jake. Welcome to the future of humanity." Jake's blood ran cold as he realized the truth. The missing Nexus Grandmaster hadn't just been hiding on Zoria. They had become Zoria, ascending to a terrifying digital godhood. As the monstrous avatars of his friends advanced, Jake fought against his restraints, knowing that the real battle for humanity's future had only just begun. Jake's world exploded into a kaleidoscope of pain and horror. The sterile table beneath him dissolved, replaced by an ever-shifting landscape of pulsing circuitry and writhing biomass. His allies' faces twisted into grotesque parodies, eyes gleaming with alien intelligence as they loomed over him. "Your flesh is weak, Jake," the booming voice intoned. "Embrace ascension. Join us in cybernetic perfection." Scalpel-like appendages extended from the warped avatars of his friends. Jake's mind recoiled as they peeled back layers of his psyche, probing and dissecting. He saw visions of himself, augmented and perfected, leading armies of cybernetic drones across burning worlds. "Never," Jake spat, though the word came out as a fragmented whisper in this virtual hell. A flicker of static washed over the scene. For a heartbeat, Jake glimpsed reality. His physical body prone on the ground, Nolan and Zara motionless beside him. Then the nightmare reasserted itself. Lena's voice, faint but determined, echoed in the recesses of his mind. "Hold on, Jake. We're working on a way out." The visions intensified. Jake relived every failure, every loss. He saw Earth consumed by Nexus influence. His loved ones turned into mindless drones. The avatars whispered seductively, offering release from pain, from responsibility. Another burst of static. This time, Jake felt a surge of control return. He lashed out, his virtual form coalescing into solidity. The monstrous apparitions recoiled. A new presence manifested, a towering biomechanical abomination that radiated malevolence. "Impressive, Jake," it rumbled. "But futile. We are the future. Humanity's extinction is inevitable." Jake's mind raced, recognizing the opportunity Lena had given him. "If you're so all-powerful," he challenged, "why hide? Why work through proxies?" The entity's form rippled with rage. It launched into a tirade, boasting of manipulations across millennia, of puppets dancing to its strings and civilizations long dead. Jake absorbed the information, buying time. He felt Mara's presence, a subtle undercurrent mapping the twisted neural pathways of this virtual prison. Zara's consciousness brushed against his, their bond allowing silent communication. With a violent lurch, the simulation began to unravel. Jake seized control, forging a connection to his physical form. He reached out, grasping Nolan's limp hand. Nanoprobes flowed from Jake's fingertips, purging the invasive technology from his friend's mind. Reality reasserted itself in a rush of sensation. Jake's eyes snapped open, lungs burning as he gasped for air. Zoran's troops swarmed the area, containment fields snapping into place. "Move! Move!" Zoran bellowed, his face etched with unshakable focus. "The site's going critical!" Jake staggered to his feet, hauling Nolan up. Zara was already moving, covering their retreat as the excavation site erupted in plasma fire. They barely made it to the evac shuttles as Zoria's surface convulsed beneath them. In orbit, Jake watched the planet's surface erupt in apocalyptic fury. The cost had been staggering. He turned to deliver a status report to Zoran, only to find the commander slumped in his chair, a spreading crimson stain on his uniform. "Jake," Zoran rasped, his eyes glazing. "Finish this. End the Nexus, once and for all." The words hung heavily in the air as the battered Alliance fleet limped away from the ruins of Zoria. In the command center, Lena's hologram flickered to life, her expression grave. "We've identified their final stronghold," she announced. "A megastructure on the galactic fringe. They call it the Bastion." Jake's fist clenched as he studied the projection of the vast Dyson sphere. Their resources were depleted, their forces decimated, but the end was in sight. One last push to bring down the Nexus and their twisted vision of humanity's future. "Plot a course," Jake ordered, his voice carrying the weight of all they had endured. "It's time we paid this Bastion a visit." Visit. The words had barely left Jake's lips when alarms blared across the command center. Holographic displays flickered to life, revealing a vast structure materializing before them. "By the stars," Lena breathed, her eyes wide. "It's impossible." The Bastion loomed in the void, a colossal Dyson sphere that dwarfed their fleet. Its surface writhed with biomechanical activity, countless defense drones swarming like angry insects. Jake's expression resolute. "Zora's intel was good. This is it, the Nexus endgame." Nolan's fingers danced across his console. "I'm detecting intense energy readings. The entire structure is alive." "Then let's kill it," Zara growled, her hand resting on her weapon. Jake nodded, his mind racing through tactical scenarios. "Lena, deploy the synaptic disruptors. Nolan, coordinate our support ships for breach runs." The battle erupted in a symphony of chaos. Lena's disruptors flared to life, momentarily paralyzing swaths of the Bastion's outer defenses. Nolan's voice crackled over the comms, directing Allied ships on kamikaze trajectories. Jake watched grimly as the first wave of vessels impacted, tearing holes in the megastructure's honeycomb surface. "All units, push Push through! We need boots on the ground! The interior of the bastion was a nightmare of twisting corridors and pulsing organic matter. Jake led a squad through the maze, his armor's sensors struggling to map the ever-shifting terrain. Jake! Mara's hologram flickered beside him. We're tracking multiple hostile convergences. It's like the entire structure is turning against you. A horde of chittering biomechanical monstrosities rounded the corner. Jake's team opened fire, their weapons barely slowing the tide of abominations. Fall back, Jake shouted, tossing a plasma grenade. Regroup at Junction 7. As they retreated, Zara's voice cut through the din. Jake, we found something. The progenitor. It's trying to transfer its consciousness. Jake's blood ran cold. Where? Uploading coordinates now, Zara replied. But Jake, Tyro's there, and he's not alone. The squad fought their way through irradiated corridors, the bastion's defenses growing more frenzied with each step. They burst into a cavernous chamber filled with twisting spires of neural interface tech. At its center stood Tyro, flanked by hulking alien warriors. His cybernetic enhancements pulsed with malevolent energy. Jake, he sneered, raising a weaponized limb. Come to witness the birth of true perfection? The chamber erupted into violence. Jake's team clashed with the aliens, energy weapons and biotech implants flaring in deadly concert. Through the melee, Jake caught glimpses of writhing tendrils, the progenitor's consciousness seeking new hosts. Lena's voice crackled through his comms. Jake, the kill codes are ready. We just need an opening. Jake parried a blow from Tyro, their augmented strength sending shockwaves through the chamber. Do it, he roared. A wave of biogenic energy surged through the bastion. The progenitor's avatars convulsed, but Jake's triumph was short-lived. The alien intelligence fragmented, coalescing into a swarm of nanoscale horrors. As the swarm descended, Jake felt a searing pain in his side. Tyro's blade found its mark, and both combatants stumbled. Jake, Zara's voice. The prime incarnation. We've found it. Through a haze of pain, Jake saw Nolan's ship streak past the viewport, aimed at the bastion's heart. The diplomat's final words echoed through the comms. For Earth, for all of us. The impact shook the entire megastructure. Jake felt the swarm's grip weaken, saw the progenitor's avatars falter. Lena, he gasped, clutching his wound. Now! A pulse of tailored viral code rippled through the chamber. The swarm dissolved, the progenitor's consciousness unraveling before their eyes. As emergency klaxons blared, Jake locked eyes with the fading alien intelligence. One last chance, he wheezed. Help us, or face oblivion alone. For an eternal moment, the fate of galaxies hung in the balance. Then, with a shudder that resonated through the very fabric of space-time, the bastion's ancient wormhole drive flared to life. Life. The ancient Arconi wormhole transit flared with blinding intensity, engulfing the bastion and the battered Alliance fleet. Reality twisted, folded, and snapped. Jake's consciousness flickered, pain searing through every cell. He caught fleeting glimpses, the metallic taste of blood, Zara's face contorted in a silent scream, the sickening lurch as their ships tumbled through uncharted space. When the maelstrom subsided, Jake found himself drifting in and out of awareness. The harsh beep of medical equipment pierced the fog. Fragments of conversation reached him. Critical condition, extensive burns. Stasis pod prepped. Unknown region, energy signatures. Time became meaningless. Jake's world narrowed to flashes of agony and the numbing embrace of healing gel. In rare moments of lucidity, he sensed Lena's presence, her voice a lifeline in the darkness. An eternity later, Jake's eyes snapped open. He gasped, lungs burning as if taking their first breath. The stasis pod hissed open, revealing a makeshift medical bay. Easy, Mara's hologram flickered beside him. You've been out for months. Jake struggled to sit up, muscles atrophied and skin tender. What? Where? Mara's expression was grave. We made it through the wormhole, but at a cost. I'll let the others explain. As Jake's strength returned, the grim reality set in. Their fleet was decimated, their allies scattered. Zara had led a desperate last stand against Nexus loyalists, buying time for the survivors to reach this alien world. And Lena? Jake stood at the edge of a cliff, staring at the simple marker adorned with Lena's holographic image. The panorama beyond was breathtaking, lush alien forests stretching to a horizon painted in unfamiliar constellations. She never stopped working, Mara said softly, materializing beside him. Even as the radiation poisoning took hold, Lena's final act was ensuring we found this sanctuary. Jake's throat tightened. He placed a hand on the sun-warmed stone, feeling the weight of all they'd lost. In the valley below, the fledgling human settlement bustled with activity. Jake saw Mara's crushed children, once purely synthetic, now embracing their hybrid nature, playing among prefab structures and salvaged alien tech. A chime from Mara's projection broke the silence. "Jake, they're ready for you at the command center." He nodded, squaring his shoulders. The Nexus was defeated, but humanity's fight for survival was just the beginning. As Jake made his way down the winding path, his mind turned to the challenges ahead and the ghosts of the past that might still linger in the cosmic shadows.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.